as ever, it is good to see you. So we're launching this new sort of segment on the programme about showing how MPs can work together to campaign for change. There's lots of these all-party parliamentary groups. We're going to start today's session by talking to two MPs who are working together for a better deal for our armed forces. But we thought it would be really helpful to me and to our viewers and listeners to just set the context, if you would.
Well, defence is one of those areas where there can be a lot of cooperation, and that's good to see that parties are coming together on this particular issue. Interestingly, Rishi Sunak was asked about his defence priorities at the launch of his leadership bid, and he said that because he was asked about not acceding to the demands that were being made by the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, about an increase to 2.5% of GDP for the armed forces. He said he was the Chancellor who actually has seen through the largest boost in military spending of any Chancellor since the Cold War. Now, that is true, but it comes against a backdrop of decreased spending over the years and the armed forces being hollowed out. Now, if we look at what the situation was at the end of the Cold War, there was 150,000 British Army personnel. In the year since to last year, that's reduced by 82,000. Also, at the end of the Cold War, there were 1,200 main battle tanks. Last year, that reduced to 227 main battle tanks. The projection now, under the latest defence review, is that the Army will reduce further to 72,000 with 148 main battle tanks. Now, many politicians and those in the military say that is just not sustainable, especially when you look at what has happened in Ukraine and, of course, the war of attrition that is now underway in Ukraine that's really shown that heavy armour, such as main battle tanks, is absolutely needed, even in modern warfare. So that's one area. The Navy is another area. Great deal of concern about the Navy. 130 ships the Royal Navy had around about the time of the Falklands War, 1982. It's now down to about 70. But of that number, there are only about 18, I think it is now, frigates and destroyers. They are vital frontline fighting ships. They're also needed to escort the two new giant aircraft carriers that the British Navy has. So, yes, it's great that the UK, the Royal Navy now has two large aircraft carriers, but it really struggles for the escorts to escort these ships every time they go out on deployment. And also, they don't, as yet, have enough of the F-35 fighter jets for these vessels. We were told that the UK had committed to 138 of these F-35 jets. Now, defence analysts believe we'll be lucky if we get about half that number, which again, according to politicians, analysts, those in the military, just not sustainable to man two aircraft carriers and also to provide the aircraft that the RAF needs, because it's a dual force aircraft that both the RAF and the Royal Navy will operate. It's not enough to sustain those operations. So some real concerns about the military and military spending going forward. A lot of candidates have said they will boost spending. Rishi Sunak, as I say, said today it will be threat-based, is how he will approach it. But that rings alarm bells, because that's exactly what previous administrations have said when they hollowed out the armed forces. It was all threat-based, and the threat after the Cold War was seen to be lower, and as a result, manpower and equipment was reduced accordingly.